This tutorial is all about animating shapes in CS Academy. Within 5 minutes, my goal is to teach you how to animate shapes from start to finish with a real practical example. Let's say in this example, in this particular exercise, what I want is for this person, when I press the mouse, to open their mouth and they eat a cookie. Now, we know from Unit 1 that we need to write the code to create the shapes if we want to create anything. So this is my person, and this star right here, although it doesn't really look like it, this is like the edge of a star here, I'm going to use for the mouth. So let me first start off by making the cookie. And to keep it simple, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the cookie be a little tan circle here, right around 200, 280, 200. So 280, 200. If you're not exactly sure how to find coordinates, if you just move your mouse around on the canvas, it'll tell you the coordinates down here. So, okay, I want to create this cookie. I want it to have a radius of maybe, let's say that mouth is not too big, so maybe 20. And then I'm going to say the fill is tan. I've got my cookie. Perfect. All right, now what I want to do here is now I want to get this mouth to open wider, and I want this cookie to move. To animate any shape in CS Academy, whenever we have a shape that's going to change, we have to first give it a name. So the star I know is going to change, so I'm going to give it a name. Mouth equals. That's how you give a shape a name. You can choose the name as long as it's short and descriptive. So you could say, so don't say something like M, because when you look back at your code, you may not know what M is supposed to represent. So mouth, short but descriptive. And then the circle represents the cookie. So right in front of the code for the circle, I'm going to write cookie. Boom. So we've done step 1 and step 2, which is make the shapes, give the shapes that are changing a name. Now we need to use something called an event handler in CS Academy. We'll talk more about event handlers, but the simplest one to use is on mouse press. And to use on mouse press, we pretty much always start with this first line of code. Def, which tells the program that it's about to learn how to do something new. And then on mouse press, and then X, comma, Y. When you use on mouse press in your code, you can pretty much just write exactly the same line of code here because that's how you pretty much, that's basically what you always have to write if you want to make something happen when the mouse is pressed. Okay, so now we need to use a formula, name.property equals value, in order to be able to change these shapes. Okay. Well, the name represents the name of the shape. We've got 2 shapes with names, mouth and cookie. The property represents what's changing about the shape, and we'll talk about the different options you have for properties next. And then the value is whatever you want that change to be in the end, which we'll see an example of this. So I want to move the cookie toward the person's mouth. So the first thing that I want to do is when I press the mouse, I want the cookie to move over here. So first I have to write cookie, because that's the name. Then I have to think about a property that could move the cookie. So if I go back to this, and you can see on Google Classroom, if you go to the help section, you're going to see something that says properties. And this gives you the list of all the different things, properties or features that you can change for the shapes. The first half of this blue photo is for any shape. So you can use any of these properties for any shape. Down here at the bottom, you can use these properties here for only some shapes. So these ones up here, these are for a line, to change the coordinates on a line. And then these ones down here, these are for a label. And then you can use these ones for like circle, regular polygon, and star. All right, that's not all the specifics, but that's just a quick crash course. So now, let's see, center X has to do with position where the X value of the circle is. So I'm going to choose the center X one, and feel free to play around. If you don't know what one of these properties does, just feel free to make a shape, write one of these words here as the property, and then just write in some values and see what happens. So I'm going to use center X here. So let's go back, center X. And I want the center X to be around 120. So I'm going to put 120 here as my center X, and let's see what happens. Ooh, okay. And I also want the cookie maybe to move down a little bit, so I can also use center Y, or top or bottom, any of these three will move a shape up and down. So cookie.center Y, I want it to be a little bit down more, so let's say more like 220. Oops, if I did cookie Y, nothing would happen at all. It wouldn't even give me an error here, so that's why you want to make sure that you use exactly the words here on this photo. All right, so let me run this, press it, okay, the cookie's there, and now I want the mouth to open wide. Okay, let's take a look. We've got the mouth, and if I want, this is kind of an interesting thing that I'm doing here, but I want my star, I'm going to actually use roundness here just as an experiment to see what happens. Remember that this mouth is actually a star here, so we can use this one down here because roundness is for a star. I'm going to say mouth.roundness, and I'm going to double it and see what happens. Equals 80. Ah, okay, so now we see that the mouth here has gotten bigger, and now I can do something, and just here, what we can do here, now just to show you what this would look like, we can also make sure that this cookie disappears as well. And to do that, we could do something like this. So instead of moving the cookie here, actually let me pause. What you can also do, like let's say when you release the mouse, you want the cookie to disappear, you could write def on mouse release. It's pretty similar to the on mouse press part. And then you do cookie.visible equals false. Visible is one of those properties here that we can change. If we run this, boom, our cookie appeared, and then when I release the mouse, it's gone. All right, so this is just a quick tutorial on how you can use variables and shape properties to animate your shapes.